It is Friday, which means it's time to get to the questions from the listeners.
You are Locked On Royals, your daily Kansas City Royals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are tuning in to another edition of Locked On Royals in the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can find me on Twitter at JohnnyJ_15. That is at JOHNYJ_15. You also can listen to us on wherever you download your podcast. That can be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Odyssey, and YouTube. Just be sure to hit that follow button and subscribe. For you first-time listeners wondering what to expect from this channel, well, right now, we're only bringing you 3 episodes a week, but that will end on February 1st. When we go back up to 5 episodes a week, we'll be fully in season at that point, and we'll be bringing you 5 episodes until about the middle of December in 2026. Before we dive into your questions, I want to tell you that today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 Eastern Time. Well, it was a pretty frustrating night for me last night. I've been dealing with a little bit of a cold, but then on top of that, dealing with internet connection, so I'm hoping this episode holds as well. But I was planning, on yesterday. I don't know why I said on yesterday, but just going back less than 24 hours, trying to reboot on the phone with, the service company, and nothing was working. I mean, I tried for hours to be able to get an episode out last night because I always want to bring you episodes Tuesday, Thursdays, and Friday, but it just wasn't going to work. And instead of putting out a 30-minute episode where I'm cutting in and out, the image is blurry, I thought I'm just going to work on this as late as I can, and then we'll get an episode out tomorrow afternoon, which is exactly what we're going to do. But we're also going to bring you another episode on Sunday. So we will be making up that Thursday episode, just going to be at the very tail end of this week. But let's stop wasting time and get to question number 1. This one's from 7. Thanks for keeping us update on Royals news. On trade talk with the Red Sox, Peyton Tolley would be a great fit in a KC jersey. If we had to part with our top ace for Duran, package Isbell and Reagans for the 2, would you think that's a good deal? Truthfully, I wouldn't, because the Royals are really trying to hang on to Cole Reagans, and I just don't get the sense they want to move him. But the more we get deep into this offseason, the less that I feel that, Jarren Duran is the best possible answer for the Royals in adding another bat. I think he's a fine player. I think he's a really good player. And if he gave you what he did in 2024, I mean, you are getting somebody that immediately becomes one of your top bats, and he's by far and away your best outfielder, and you have him for a couple extra years. But to give up pitching like that, I'm just not sure that Peyton Tolley fills that void. And I've said this before, Cole Reagans is the one guy stuff-wise, and when he's on his game, they just can't replace. They're able to replace Chris Bubich in the rotation. They're able to replace Lugo, Waka, even guys like Noah Cameron. But with Cole Reagans, when he's healthy and he's on his game, we saw, he's a Cy Young finalist. He's somebody that can be one of the best arms in the American League, and the Royals understand that, which is why they're just not trading him to Boston, even if that brought them back Jarren Duran and Peyton Tolley. This one is coming from Adam. Simply, are we good? So I'm assuming this means just good in general. Right now, and I feel I haven't changed my stance on this since the Isaac Collins and even the Matt Strong trade. Right now, I feel they could get to the final week of the season in playoff contention. I feel they need to add another bat before I could really say they are a playoff team, and I feel about 85% confident on that. I'm 50-50 right now when it comes to are they or are they not. Having that extra bat is so pivotal to make me feel a heck of a lot more comfortable with this offense. Right now, I feel good about the bullpen. I feel good about the rotation. I feel good about half of the lineup. You get that over 50% of the lineup, I think they could win 86 to 90 games, which would be good enough to get them into the postseason. This one is coming from RB Carr. Are you more optimistic about David Shields or Kendry Churio? David Shields by a mile. And here's the reason why. It's not to be down on Kendry Churio, but Kendry Churio is incredibly young. I feel that he dominated, when he was coming over from the Dominican League. And to be pitching that well early on in low A at his age, it's impressive. But David Shields, to me, made a mockery of low A Columbia. And I feel is going to make a mockery of high A Quad Cities. And he's still just 19, 20 years old. He screams 22-year-old top pitching prospect in the Royals organization and, top pitching prospect in all of baseball, at least, top 20 3 years from now or 2 years from now. His stuff is so violent. His command is on point. And he's also got a repeatable delivery. That's something that you always feel good about with young prospects. It's not too much herky-jerky stuff. You've got a very smooth and consistent delivery. You keep stress off your elbow, keep stress off your shoulder. He reminds me a lot in his delivery of Joe Ryan, which Royals fans know all about. But I am much higher on David Shields. That stuff is violent, and if the velocity is a tick up or two this year, I feel he could jump into the top 100. This one is coming from Michael. Do you still think a major trade is coming soon? Major trade is tough to commit to. I feel another trade is coming at some point. What that trade is going to bring back, hey, we know that as long as we've been doing this podcast in the offseason, the answers vary. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to tell you, I'm putting the chips in that a Jarren Duran or a Joe Adell or a Brendan Donovan type deal would happen. I feel it's likelier that they acquire a bat that's not one of those top three, because those are just going to be incredibly expensive bats. I see them adding another bat, but to add one of those three, the asking price is so astronomical right now where it just doesn't make logical sense for the Royals to do that. And you could pivot to go add a nice complementary bat, and I would say a starter to this lineup, but one that you're not having to give up Noah Cameron, Cole Reagans, or a Ryan Berger type pitcher. I feel that if they move Chris Bubich, that's the type of return you could get. And I feel you'd feel very, very good about your acquisitions of the offseason. But major trade, I'm below 50% at this point. It could always change, though, on any given day. This one is coming from David. What's your opinion on Cameron Meisner? Is he just AAA depth? Yeah, I would say that he is. I feel we'll see him at some point in 2026. He's got big league experience. He's got some raw power. What I believe that move was more about was adding depth to, or adding an everyday player to Omaha, because Omaha had a poor year all the way around. Then I don't really fault them. I mean, they sent a lot of their top contributors to Kansas City, and they were majority 4A guys. And when you lose those 4A guys and you're replacing them with Dallas Keuchels out there and Rich Hills to the rotation, I mean, they were limping to the finish line. And so now I feel that a couple of these minor league deal moves, they're to bolster the depth in AAA. But I could see Cameron Meisner getting to Kansas City at some point, but just more so in a bench type role and as a fourth or a fifth outfielder. This one's coming from Dalton. I think we can agree that our outfield is above average defensively, even without the impact bat, especially with Isbell. If the Royals got an impact bat that was a second baseman such as Donovan or another decent bat, would that make up for not getting an impact outfield bat? Absolutely. If the Royals got Brendan Donovan, they could play him at second base or they could play him in left field. But if that was the pivot to not adding an outfield bat, I'd still be a home run type of deal, because Brendan Donovan gives you that flexibility. He can play left field. He can play second base, a Gold Glover at second base, high OBP guy. And if you didn't have to give up a ton to get him, I feel really good about that offense. But Brendan Donovan's going to be expensive, hence why he's been rumored to be traded for months now, and nobody's really come that close. But if they do land a Brendan Donovan or a Brendan Donovan-like player, you can afford to not land that Jarren Duran type bat. And I'll be honest, too. As much as I do like Jarren Duran, and I said this in my first answer, he's becoming less valuable to me as we go on throughout this offseason. I mean, at the end of the day, he did hit in the 260s, I believe. Not that average means everything to me, but his OPS plus was, sub 120, which is still good. That's, 17 to 18 points above league average, which I believe he was at 117 or 118 for his OPS plus. That's good. But if you're to give up a Cole Reagans for that, to me, that's not doing enough. I mean, one guy that I would absolutely be over the moon about is Nico Horner, who the Cubs said are listening to on trade talks. I mean, an elite defender, a Gold Glover, and somebody you could pencil in immediately to second base and play every single day, but they also gave Jonathan India $8 million to be their everyday player, and it kind of sounds like they're counting on a bounce-back year from him. But if they pivoted to one of those two guys, a Hoerner or Brendan Donovan, over the outfield bat, I still feel it'd be a home run type of deal for the Royals. Let's take our first break. When we come back, still plenty of questions to get to next on Locked On Royals. You are tuned into Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can listen to me on wherever you download your podcasts. Want to tell you about the one and only sponsor today in FanDuel. Friday's already feeling a little bit different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better. Every Friday night before the games tip off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame and a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 Eastern Time. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. For my pick, I will stay in the NBA here, and I will take the over on three-pointers made by Jalen Brunson in his next game, and I will take the over on points scored for the New York Knicks. But I'm going to do so over on FanDuel. Let's get back into our questions on Twitter. This one is coming from Tom. Well, funny enough, it's about Nico Hoerner. What would a trade for Nico Hoerner look like? I mean, the Cubs are smart to listen to offers on him because he's a free agent in 2027. So he doesn't really have the years of control anymore. And the Cubs, they're a team that can reload in free agency. They're always going to be aggressive in that department. But Nico Hoerner was an elite player for them last year. You're talking about their best defender, hit over 290, a 6+ WAR season. I mean, that's incredibly valuable to anybody out there. If the Royals were to call about Nico Hoerner, I'm guessing that the return would be about the same as it would be for Brendan Donovan. Maybe a little bit more expensive, but Donovan also has the years of control where Nico Hoerner does not. So even though Hoerner had a better year last year, not having the extra years of control automatically brings down that price. Maybe it could be Noah Cameron and a prospect throw-in for Hoerner. Why I'm skeptical, though, on infielders, as much as I would love to see the Royals go out there and add another infielder. And if you got Hoerner, you have the best infield in all of baseball. Defensively, there's not much that's getting through there. And a double play combination of Hoerner and Bobby Witt Jr., man, I mean, that is some electric type stuff. But, oh, my goodness, if you could trade Bubic and somebody for Hoerner, you do that deal in a heartbeat. I guess I just wonder where Jonathan India fits in at that point. And I know a lot of people aren't going to be big fans of Jonathan India playing every single day. But if they really wanted to add a second base bat, I don't know why you'd give India the $8 million. And I guess he could always be traded. That's still a possibility. I don't believe his trade value is that high, and it'd be more of a salary dump than anything. But then I guess it just doesn't make too much sense. But baseball's always been tricky with this. Just because you sign somebody or trade somebody to play a certain position doesn't mean you can't get creative. But I imagine if they were to get a guy like Hoerner, it would take a Noah Cameron or Chris Bubic and multiple other players to land a player with that type of elite defensive capabilities and also a pretty dang good bat as well. This one's coming from RCJH. What are the chances we land one more big bat and the chances that we don't? And what's your prediction for our record in 2026 with a big bat versus without? I would still say they land another bat. The value of that bat, it's kind of tough to tell because it's been quiet now in the offseason for the last couple of weeks, really ever since mid-December. I would say if they land a big bat, I'm going to say they're getting close to 90 wins at that point. If they don't land the big bat and it's just a serviceable bat, I'll put them in the ballpark of 84 to 86. They got to stay healthier on the pitching side of things. I feel they've upgraded a little bit offensively. They've upgraded their bench, but you're still missing that big get. And if you can get that bat that you've been searching for the last 3 seasons, then I feel you get closer to 90 wins. And that, to me, is the safe benchmark. They haven't had many 90-win seasons, but if you get to 90 wins, you're playing in October, and you're not barely squeaking in to the postseason. This one is coming from Aiden. Do you think the Royals can do a traditional 2-team trade to get Duran? Personally, for me, I think the only way the Royals get Duran is through a 3-team trade because I just don't think Boston will lower their asking price. I will say that the one way the asking price could come down a little bit on Jarren Duran is if they get Alex Bregman. And I was listening to Buster Olney the other day, and he had said the Red Sox are his team to land Alex Bregman, bring him back on a large contract. And if they bring Bregman back, it only crowds that lineup that much more. Now, he's not an outfielder, but if you're going to add Bregman to that lineup, it's going to continue to force guys out. And you get Contreras to go play first base. I have a hard time believing they're going to move Cedar Rafaela to second base. I know he can play there, but he's one of the best defenders in the sport in center field. You have Wilyer Abreu, you have Roman Anthony. You're not taking at bats away from that. You land Bregman, you probably feel better about your offense, and you'd be more willing to move Duran, and you could still get someone like Chris Bubich on it. But that, to me, is one way they could still pull off the two-team trade. If they don't get Bregman, I'm with you, Aiden. I believe it has to be a three-team trade at that point. This one is coming from Eli. Is Austin Hayes still their best option for the outfield solution? My logic, no prospect cost. Best case, Caglione hits and he platoons where he rakes left-handed pitching. Worst case, Cags gets sent down and he is a league average outfielder. Austin Hayes would be a fine get. I also said this on our episode last week about Austin Hayes. If you're going to get him, don't let him be the only other bat that you land. He's a good platoon bat, but he played 100 games for the Reds last year. You also signed Lane Thomas to be your platoon bat. I don't view him as somebody you're going to go give $15 to $20 million to over the course of 2 years to be an everyday player. And the fact that Austin Hayes is really just a corner outfielder and more so in left field where you have Isaac Collins, I'm not sure the fit is still there anymore, but having multiple outfielders and ones that can hit left-handed pitching, it bodes well for Matt Quattro's lineup. So I'm fine with it if it's cheap and it's not the only move they make, throughout the rest of the offseason. I want to see them either get an everyday player or maybe get two bats to kind of equal to that everyday player in the Royals lineup. This one is coming from Eli. Do you think the idea of Nico Horner, or do you like the idea of Nico Horner? And if they trade him, do you think they would try to flip India and roll with either Massey or Frazier on the bench? $8 million for a block position player is a good chunk of change. Yeah, and that's exactly, and going back to my previous answer on Nico Horner, why I'm a little bit skeptical to give him the 1-year deal to come back and be an everyday player. It doesn't make sense to just then flip him because you're not going to get great trade value when you would be trading for a guy like Nico Horner. I would love to have Nico Horner at second base, and maybe things have changed now that Horner would be available and they're listening to offers out there. But I could also see the Cubs saying, there's no rush to trade him. We're still trying to compete. And if we're out of it at the trade deadline, that's when we'll be trying to do it. This feels more to me like we're listening to offers where things stand as of now, and we'll come back to these discussions at the trade deadline. But as of right now, I just feel that Jonathan India is going to be this team's opening day second baseman when they take the field in Atlanta in late March. This one is coming from Cole Reagan's Mustache. With the starting pitchers having been injury-ridden in 2025 and this team being 7 starting pitchers deep to start 2026, assuming no trade, do you see the Royals using a 6-man rotation at any point? I think they should consider it. They can consider it. I know Detroit did it early on last year when they had, I'm blanking on the kid's name now, but he had started, every, 6th day or so, and he was fine. I can't believe I'm blanking on his name now. He had goggles. I remember that. Oh, it was Keter Montero. I knew I was going to get there at some point. But Keter Montero would start for the Tigers, and he was that 6th option. When you're playing in April, though, you have a lot of off days. So naturally, you're not really going to need a 6-man rotation. May kind of comes down to how that April went. And they have plenty of guys that can start games for them. Kolek can start. Bergert can start. If Bailey Falter makes the team, he could start as well. You have your usual 5, unless there's no trade, of course. I'm always a advocate for 6-man rotation, like late August and then into September. And you're definitely going to need it this year because we saw how Waka and Lugo finished out the year. They were gassed at that point. But early on, because of the off days and because I want those guys to get built up and used to throwing 5 days or every 5th day, then I'm kind of against it early on. But at the end of the season, I'm with you there. I'd be totally open to a 6-man rotation, and I would consider it because of, the age concern for guys like Seth Lugo and Michael Waka. Let's take our final break of the show. When we come back, we'll wrap it all up with our Mailbag Friday on Locked On Royals. You are tuned into Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can follow me on Twitter at JohnnyJ_15. Want to tell you about the Everydayer Club, and you have heard us talk about it a lot over the last month, and we want to thank you for making Locked On Royals your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcasting network. If you want to sign up, though, for the Everydayer Club, get the Discord channel service, get the text service, and can get ad-free Locked On Royals episodes, we'll just scroll down below. You can see the little URL in our show notes. You can also do the same thing on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you listen on the podcasting platforms. And then you can sign up right then and there. Or if you want to gift it to somebody, I know we're a few weeks past Christmas now, or I guess just a week removed from Christmas. You still want to give somebody a gift? It's cheap, it's affordable, and if you listen to us every day, hey, you can get a little boost there with our Everydayer Club. But very easy to sign up on it. Just scroll down below, click on that URL, and they will take you from there. Jumping back over to Twitter to wrap up our questions there, and then go over to YouTube. This one's from Jason. If the Royals didn't make any more moves this offseason, out of 10, what would you score all the moves put together? I'd give it a 7. I'd feel fine about it. I feel that the additions of Isaac Collins, Nick Mears, Matt Strahm, Lane Thomas, they're good. They'll make me feel better about this team. But after missing the postseason, I wanted to see a 9 to 9.5 out of 10 offseason. It's really hard to have a 10 out of 10 offseason unless you're someone like the Dodgers who can land a superstar like Ohtani and just continue to add to that talent. But also, I would have said last year the Mets had a really good offseason and landing Juan Soto, and they missed the postseason. So the offseason, it gets you optimistic about the year. And for the Royals, I like how they've been aggressive on the trade route and kind of adding little pieces here and there. But if you want to erase what happened in 2025 and going 82-80, missing the postseason by 5 games, well, then I feel that you need to go get that difference-making bat to have everybody, just gushing about the season. Have everybody geared up for spring training. You're buying the guy's jersey, and I'm still waiting for that bat. If they get the serviceable bat, I'll bump it up to an 8, and I'll never complain about an 8 out of 10. But if I want to be over the moon about this offseason, I need to see that everyday bat. And it's still possible, and we'll see what asking prices come down the closer we get to spring training. This one's from Chris. Are there any prospects in the Royals system that are likely to make their MLB debuts this coming season? Are there any in particular fans should be excited for? I think Steven Zobak could certainly appear in Kansas City at some point out of the bullpen. Eric Sarantola could as well. Javier Vaz and a bench role. In terms of being excited about, David Shields down in Low A, who we already got asked about in this episode. I'm just so excited to watch him play. Josh Hammonds and Gamble, those guys are going to be phenomenal to watch early on. Even if there are some struggles, those are big-time prospects they've just added to the system. Ben Kudrna could get a shot as well. I'm rooting for him. He went to my high school, so he's a local kid, grew up a Royals fan. You could see him in Kansas City, but very late in the year. They're loaded right now when it comes to pitching depth. So those guys getting to Kansas City, it would likely be from a result of injuries or just poor performance out of the bullpen. But right now, I would say there's nobody that I'm really, really excited for that's going to be in Kansas City in 2026. But I also didn't expect Carter Jensen to get to Kansas City in 2026 a year ago around this time. I mean, I would have been floored if you told me he was starting games for the Royals late in September. This one's coming from Jeff. Good discussion of how Strahm fits into the pen on the last show. What about Alex Lang? What role, if any, do you think he will have? If he's healthy in camp and pitches well, I believe he makes the team. Now that you put everything into spring training, but having the 1-year deal, the major league deal, if his stuff looks good and he's healthy, he's going to have a spot. To me, you're looking at more of that John Schreiber type role, but I also feel that Nick Mears is going to take a lot of those John Schreiber roles where 6th inning, facing a righty dominant lineup, and you need somebody to go out there and get some good swing and miss. I feel Nick Mears gives you the swing and miss. Alex Lang can as well. Schreiber's more pitch to contact. I also could see him in a Jonathan Bolin type role where you need a couple of innings. Probably not with Lang, though, because in coming off of injury and not being a very healthy guy the last 2 years, just dealing with elbow injuries and shoulder injuries, I feel that you need to be cautious with him. No, don't overdo it. have him pitching games early on where it's 6-1 in the ninth inning. Go out there and pitch in low leverage spots. I feel that for starters will be his role. If he excels in it, though, yeah, I'm going to probably pick the John Schreiber type role for a guy like Alex Lang if he looks like, the guy that he was in 2022 with the Tigers. Okay, let's jump over to our inbox here on Twitter. This one's coming from Jerry. First, I will predict India has a bounce-back season offensively. My question, if Carson Roccaforte was to start in AAA and have a good couple of months, do you think he could be brought up and have success if needed? He had a pretty good 2025 season. I will throw in Carson Roccaforte to a guy to watch at the minor league level this year. I don't believe he's ready for big league pitching. He can get there, but he feels a little bit like John Rave did to me last year at this time, where the numbers can be there. I could believe in his numbers in AAA, but is he a prospect that I believe can come up and thrive in 2026? I do not. I'm going to need to see a lot more from him and his development, his overall plate approach. I feel he can draw a walk at a pretty high rate, but I want to see some really explosiveness from his game offensively. He's a great defender, therefore there's always a path for him, but I'm hoping that the Royals have really added to their outfield where you're not really worrying about calling on guys in AAA to be your answer in 2026. This one is going to be coming from Steve. Jack, what is the destination of Kyle Tucker, Bregman, Bellinger, and Bichette? Great show. And thank you for the kind words, Steve. I would say for Kyle Tucker, I'm going San Francisco. I feel in my conversation with Dan Zimborski a couple of weeks ago, him saying the Giants made me kind of believe in that Giants pick. They missed out on Aaron Judge a few years back. They missed out on Carlos Correa. They need that outfielder to just really add a lot of thump to the middle of their order, and Kyle Tucker feels like the perfect fit for them. If it's not the Giants, then I feel he's going to return to either the Chicago Cubs or go to the Toronto Blue Jays. For Bo Bichette, I'm going to pick the Phillies here. I actually feel the Phillies could be a really good fit for Bo Bichette, and I'm waiting for them to add that really big bat of the offseason. They always seem to put together a really good winter as well. So I'll go Phillies for Bo Bichette. Bellinger, the Yankees are going to bring him back. They haven't landed anybody really, to my knowledge, yet, unless I'm completely blanking on somebody. That feels like a Yankee get of the offseason. Cody Bellinger's that guy they need to put the chips in and go out there and give a 7-year deal to. And then Bregman was the other one here. I feel that Alex Bregman is going to go back to Boston. He's going to be very, very expensive. The Tigers could always be another option there. But Boston, they've got the money to throw around it, and I feel they're trying to have the best offseason among anybody in all of baseball, and adding Bregman would go a long way in doing that. This one is coming from Jared and Julie Smith. What do you think of these notable moves by the Royals for the rest of the offseason? Also, what is your favorite move? Sign Danny Kalum to a 1-year deal, trade Hero White and Tyler Tolbert to the Giants for Luis Matos and Casey Schmidt, extend Vinny to a 6-year deal worth $68 million. This is mostly they don't get the big bat. I would probably say extending Vinny would be my favorite. Getting Danny Kalum as the other left-handed arm would be a great one too. The Giants trade, I feel you'd have to give up a little bit more than that, but it'd be something to give your bench a nice boost. It'd be a nice 2-depth add. But I do feel that of the options there, I would love to see them get an extension now with Vinny Pasquantino. Then adding another bullpen arm from the left side would be nice. And then a minor trade like that would be a sweet little deal to end the offseason for the Royals. This one is coming from Max, and it will end our episode. Keeping on the topic of barbecue, pick your favorite and tell me the order of Joe's, Jack Stack, Gates, or his personal favorite of Q39. Joe's for me, then Q39, Jack Stack, and Gates. I love them all. I have them pretty frequently. And just having Gates fourth doesn't mean I don't like it. I absolutely love it. It's just you can't find bad barbecue here in Kansas City, but that would be my order 1 through 4. Well, that's going to do it for another edition of Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I've been your host, Jack Johnson. We're not going to be done for the week. We will be bringing you another episode on Sunday, and we're just going to talk about what we planned to last night, which was the rotation. Going to talk a little bit more about Isaac Collins and maybe even where Nick Mears is expected to slot into this bullpen. But also, before we say goodbye for this Friday, want to thank you for making Locked On Royals your first listen every day. And if you want to subscribe to that Everydayer Club, just scroll down below, click on that URL link, and they will take you from there. But until Sunday, you take it easy, Kansas City.